Hi guys, Dr. Justin Southey here, going through your semester test 1, and we're looking at question 9. On the whole, this question was answered quite badly. It seemed to stump quite a lot of you, particularly part B, with this sufficient condition. But let's start with A. Okay, so we ask you to write down a logic formula that is logically equivalent to P or Q and P or R, but shorter. And the important thing here to note is that both of these guys have got a P sitting in them, and we can you can sort of think of it as factorizing out this P, and we end up with P or, now it's P or in both of them. So now we have a bracket Q and R. Okay, if you're not too sure how we got that, you need to go and read up in your logic notes, or come and see us, and we'll explain it a little bit more. Okay, so you got half a mark there for getting the or, and half a mark for getting the bracket out. Okay, moving on to the more tricky one, where most of you really fell down. Write the negation of the following statement: for the warning light to come on, it is sufficient, and this is the tricky bit, for the pressure to drop and the temperature to be high. So what does it is sufficient mean? That means that as soon as this happens, okay, this here is sufficient, that as soon as this happens, this will happen. So the pressure, if the pressure drops and the temperature is high, that is sufficient for this to happen. So writing it in if-then form, we've got if the pressure drops and the temperature is high, then the warning light will come on. Okay, this sentence here is equivalent to that sentence over here. If the pressure drops and the temperature is high, then the warning light will come on. The trick here is simply, what through most of you, is simply this sufficiency. And you just need to spend some time thinking about necessary and sufficient conditions. But basically the sufficiency is that this is sufficient. As soon as this happens, okay, it is that happening is sufficient to make this thing over here happen. Okay, once you've got the if then, it's then quite simple, because we want the negation. If A, then B. Well, the negation is A and not B. So the negation we can write as, so A, the first thing happens, so the pressure drops and the temperature is high. Oops, press for space there. And not B. So, and the warning light does not come on. Okay, so you basically got a mark there and a mark there and a mark there for the not coming on. But this was a difficult question, and not very many of you got very many marks at all. And it's mostly because of the sufficiency. You weren't sure where to get started. Okay, C, we're asked, this is just 1 mark, express the following statement using only the logical connectives not and or. Now, if you know the logical equivalents for this, it's very, very easy, and you would have been able to write down immediately that this is logically equivalent to not Q or R. And that's quite an important one to know. It was an all or nothing marks. There was no part way, because you either know it or you don't. But there is a quite useful way to work it out if you don't know it, and I'm going to go through that now quickly for those of you who are interested. This Q implies R. If you know the negation of this, which I find much easier to remember, because Q implies R, the only time it's false is when Q happens and not R happens. So R doesn't follow from Q. So the negation of this is logically equivalent to Q happening and not R happening. Now we don't want something that's logically equivalent to that. We want something that's logically equivalent to what we started with. But if we negate both sides of this, this side just by double negating this and getting back to what we started with, and this side we negate using De Morgan's law, so that becomes not Q, the and flips over to OR, and then not R becomes R, we've got a way that back to our answer, and we've kind of worked it out with a formula, a logically equivalent formula that I think is a little bit easier to remember. But either way, whether you remember it this way or whether you work it out, you'll get your 1 mark.